Fall is short. One moment it's full-blown summer, and the next there is bare leaves everywhere. Blink and you will miss it. Now, if you do manage to get a very good spot with some good fall foliage, it can be a little easy to freeze as a photographer, and it can be tempting just to go point and shoot. But I want to encourage you, if you are at this video and you do care about getting those very cool, unique photographer, next level, blow up on your wall shots, I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper, and that's what this video is all about. The goal of this video is to help you so that when you do find those lucky, stunning fall moments, you will know exactly what to do, you will have some inspiration, and you will be completely prepared to get those mind-blowing fall foliage shots. Hi, my name is Alexandra, and I am the Bucket List Mermaid, and it is my goal to help you live adventurously through your lens. Now, fall season is technically over right now, but I spent the entire time just doing nothing but perfecting my fall foliage photography, and I'm going to be sharing my tips on what I did and how you can do it too. So grab your camera, let's dive in. Mermaid adventure mode activated. Now, why is shooting fall so special, and why is it a goldmine for photographers? And I think it is very simple. It transforms rather ordinary scenes into a kaleidoscope of fall colors, those yellows, those oranges, and those reds. For example, you might see a mountain pass and it's beautiful. However, what would make it even more beautiful? Fall leaves. Also, what makes it so special is it is so fleeting. The season really does not last long. I am here from Colorado. I live full-time in an RV, and let me tell you, those fall leaves are finicky. They are even more dramatic than I was doing high school theater. So because they are so elusive, and because it all depends on the weather and the seasonality and how summer was, that means that their value goes up significantly. Plus, they're just so beautiful. Now, since I am guiding you in adventure photography, we have to talk about travel and the best places to travel for fall leaves. Now, you might know where this is, and I actually have an entire guide telling you where to go for the fall leaves, so if you are interested in that, I will link it in the description below. However, I'm so biased because I'm in Colorado, so the Colorado Rockies are always going to be my favorite. However, some other places that I've seen very good fall leaves, they have some very, very good ones in eastern United States, like up in Maine and Vermont. Also, Japan is another really, really good one to go to for fall leaves. However, I would caution you, if you are traveling for the fall leaves, go early and during multiple times, because depending on a variety of factors, like how dry it was that year, what altitude you are at, there's so many factors that contribute to when the peak fall leaves are. So if you are traveling, I would do it very, very carefully, and also adjust your expectations, because you might just miss it. Or just go multiple times, multiple days, multiple times, multiple weeks if you can. Now, I do have a tracker that I like to use. I believe it's called explorefall.com. This has actually been a game changer for my fall leaves, especially if you are staying local and you have the opportunity to stay flexible in your travels. Obviously, if you're traveling all the way to Japan, you might not have a choice, and you might just need to cry into your camera lens if you miss it. However, if you are local, I would make sure that you are checking those fall leaf trackers before you drive all the way up there, or just look outside. Are your own leaves changing? And then just adjust for the altitude accordingly. Another thing that I would recommend is if you go on any sort of social media account, you can use the hashtag leaf peeping. They're literally called leaf peepers. And that's those people that just love the fall leaves and they just chase them. So if you do, search a little bit on social media, most likely photographers who are leaf peepers will be posting their work, so you can see, check the dates, comment, say, is this recent, is this new, is this from last year, and that is another very good way to get new recent tips from actual photographers, and it might give you some inspiration while you're looking. And worst case scenario, if you do miss your fall leaf window, I would always go to a place that has a backup, just so you aren't leaving empty-handed, because sometimes storms can roll in and just strip all the leaves bare. So always have somewhere with a nice mountain backdrop or a waterfall or something else that you can photograph, just as a little mini consolation prize. Okay, now let's talk about the time of day that you should do this. I'm going to be saying something very controversial in this section, so I apologize for that, because every single photographer and every single course and everything says that golden hour and blue hour are your best windows because there's less crowds and the light is great and the skies are great. Midday is kind of where it's at here with fall photography. Now, yes, the sunrise is cool. You might get some mist on the trails and less crowd crowds and all that jazz, and the morning glow can come in and kind of, light up the leaves in an interesting and unique way. But midday is actually where the sun goes through the leaves, and that's where their color and their vibrancy really start to shine. So, good news for your alarm clock. This is the one time I will actually recommend going midday if you can. Obviously, I would recommend doing all of them, the sunrise, the midday, and the sunset if you can, but I actually had to choose one, I would choose midday. Now let's talk about crafting a shot list before you go, because you might need to plan a little bit. Now, I tend to spontaneously and in an ADHD-like fashion just kind of shoot whatever I feel inspired to. However, with fall leaves, I think I would plan to have a shot list before you go, especially if you are traveling to the location. Now here's the shot list that I would go for, or I would try to keep an eye out for. Number one, anything with reflections. If you do have a lake or a waterfall or anything and you can get the leaves reflecting, that is literally pure fall magic. Another idea, if you are going for those midday shots, is a backlit leaf. One of my favorite shots that I actually got during this section, I was laying on my back during midday and I pointed the camera directly up and I went wide so that I could get all of the leaves being backlit from the sun. Another thing that I did with backlit leaves is that I closed my aperture to about f20 and then I shot directly through the sun while it was backlighting the leaves, and it's one of my favorite shots that I've ever got from fall photography. Another thing that I think is really cool with fall leaves is some leading lines here, especially with roads and trails. If you can get a road with a car that is going off to the side with all the fall leaves, I think that is just beautiful. You can create some magical moments with some leading lines here, or maybe some trees leading to other trees, or a waterfall leading to some trees. Just guide the viewer's eye and it just creates a very well-balanced photograph here. Another idea is to get some candid shots. This is especially nice if you are traveling with a buddy or your family or something like that. Although I do like the posed shots in front of the leaves, I think I definitely prefer shots with movement with people in them laughing, them enjoying the leaves, their reactions to the leaves. One of the best leaf peeping I've ever had was actually on Guanella Pass here in Colorado in the Rockies. And I wish I would have just gotten my face and my reaction, because it was probably like to the entire thing. And I think those are some pretty powerful storytelling moments. Now here's another idea for your shot list that most people forget about, because everybody just goes wide and gets those beautiful landscapes and they're great. But why not look down? Look down at the leaves that have already fallen and get a macro lens or zoom in very, very tight to those leaves on the ground. Now, I was very lucky. I got here right after a storm, so I could actually capture some water droplets on the leaves. And this is one of my favorite photos that I've taken because it's so different, it's so unique, and it's not one that people think about generally when they are photographing fall leaves. And if you're really stuck, just add movement to your photo. For example, throw some leaves up into the air, have somebody twirling in your photo. Maybe decrease your shutter speed a little bit so that they're blurry, but the rest of it is in focus. Or maybe increase your shutter speed so you can get those crisp movement lines. Whatever you feel artistically as a photographer, go for it. I would encourage you, don't be boring. Try to think outside the box a little bit. Get the photos that not everybody is getting, and that's what separates you from a tourist with their cell phone to a photographer. Now let's just quick talk about gear and what gear you might want to think about investing before you go on this fall foliage photography bucket list adventure. Now, this is the camera that I use for the majority of my shoots. This is a Canon EOS 5D Mark IV, and this lens on here is a 24 to 105 millimeter. However, this is a DSLR and it is very heavy, so if you are trekking into the mountains in order to get these photos, I would recommend maybe something smaller. This is a Canon EOS M50 Mark II. Very, very light, very convenient, and it actually takes pretty good photos compared to the other one that's triple the price. So anyway, I just clip it to my hiking bag, and this is the one that I normally trek with. However, if you are just driving around and using the pull-offs and whatnot, I would recommend doing your best camera you have. Now, I do have a little 50 millimeter prime lens that I did try. It wasn't my favorite. The thing that I liked about this one is this goes down to an f1.8, which was really, really cool for those really shallow depth of field shots. So I did like that, but it definitely was not on my camera as much. And I also did take the big lens. This one one is 100 to 400. It is very, very heavy, and I think I only used it about once before my arms got tired and I realized that I liked it more wide anyway. So this one I would probably leave at home if I were you, and then just stick to that really nice standard zoom lens. Another thing that I would consider, this is my 55 to 200 lens for this smaller camera right here, and I do have a polarizer on here. This is just something that screws on to here, and it looks like this, and it basically just cuts the glare, especially if you are photographing any lakes or waterfalls. It can be helpful, but I would recommend doing it with and without, just in case, just because sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. So just experimenting a little bit. And something else that I would recommend bringing is a tripod. Now, I'm most of the time adventuring or trekking into my photography locations, so I most of the time take this very, very tiny tripod. You can do a bigger one for sure if you want something more sturdy, but the reason I would suggest this is I'm going to show you this photo right here, and this wide landscape that I took at this point is actually comprised of 5 images. So I ended up doing some bracketing here, so I would expose for the sky, take an image, expose for the background, take an image, expose for the foreground, take an image. You get the idea. And then later in Photoshop, I merged all of these together, and the result was a balanced and exposed image. Now, I could not have done this without a tripod because all of the photos needed to match up perfectly. Also, I would recommend taking a tripod if you want to do any sort of waterfall photography, especially long exposure waterfall photography, which I do have a video guide on if you want to learn how to do. Again, I will link that below in the description if you are interested in learning how to do long exposure waterfall photography. But basically, you do need to put your camera on a tripod, need to set a timer, and then you will get those long, beautiful streaks of waterfall going down with all the fall foliage around it, and it's basically magic, and you can retire from that. Now let's talk about some starting settings for fall leaf photography. Obviously, this is going to be extremely dependent on the situation that you are in, and I think this is a good starting point, but I would encourage you to go to manual and experiment with what you got. However, this can be a good place to start. Now with your ISO, I would obviously keep it as low as you can, maybe from 100 to 400. Again, we just don't want to make the photos grainy or introduce any noise, especially if you are there during midday. You won't have an issue with this, but if you are there during sunrise or sunset, you might have to bump up the ISO a little bit just to compensate for the darker image, but try to keep it as low as possible. You also might need to bump this up if you are jacking up your aperture, like you want everything super, super clear, and that definitely tends to darken the photo, so you might need to bump up your ISO there. Now, speaking of aperture, if you are doing those wide landscapes, I generally like to stick more towards f8 to f11, maybe a little bit higher if I want everything super crisp. Again, for those sunburst shots, if you are shooting that through the tree, I would go very, very high on your aperture, maybe like f20, f22, f16, kind of around there, just to get that sunburst effect. And important, check your photo afterwards. Zoom in, I know, zoom into the photo after you've taken it and just make sure that it's clear. If it's not, start to slowly bump up that aperture just to make sure that it's clear. Now, if you are doing those leaf portraits or you want something very, very crisp in the front and very blurry in the back, that's when you would start opening your aperture, maybe down to f4. Again, with this baby, I got down to 1.8, and man, that was cool. And then moving on to shutter speed. If you are handheld, it kind of depends on you as the photographer and how steady your hand is. For mine, I can go to about 1/125th of a second and be okay, maybe down to 1/60th if I'm lucky. However, I would kind of stick there or higher if you are shooting handheld, just to make sure that your images are crisp. Anything lower than that, you might need a tripod, or if you're doing any long exposure waterfall shots, you will need a tripod. Now, here's the caveat with the long exposure shots that I ran into, is that sometimes when you do have wind, the leaves move. And when I was there, the storm had just blown through, so all the leaves were moving. It was a little windy, so every time I tried to do a long exposure shot, my shots were super blurry because it was capturing everything, and as the leaves blew, my shot became blurrier and blurrier. So that's something to keep in mind with long exposure shots, is make sure you go on a windless day, or you might just have to bump up your shutter speed and go handheld. So you've got your shots, and trust me, the fun does not end there. I am a huge editor. I love editing. Like, I love just bringing photos to life. So just some editing tips for your fall photography to make them look chef's kiss. Now I use Lightroom and I always shoot in RAW so that I have maximum flexibility when I am editing in Lightroom. Now the first thing I will do is I will just bump up the yellows just a little bit just to make the image just a little bit more warm. Now the real magic will happen in the HSL panel where you can isolate specific colors. I will mostly be focusing on the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. I will put the greens more towards the yellows. I'll put the yellows more towards the oranges, and then I will enhance the reds. And then after that, I will start going through all the other stuff, maybe tweaking the saturation, maybe tweaking the exposure if I need to. Now, personally, my photographer style is I tend to use just a slight vignette on all of my pictures, not so much where it looks like the early 2000s, but just enough where it guides the viewer's eye. Most of my magic number is around -11 to -20, and I do it on a photo by photo basis. Now, if nature has ghosted you and you're just getting a ton of greens, you can cheat a little bit with this if you are very careful by changing the tone of the greens. You can see this here where I'm kind of isolating the greens and then I'm pushing them more towards the yellows. This isn't perfect, but it will give your photo more of a fall vibe. If all of this sounds very, very overwhelming, you can do a preset first and then just tweak on a photo to photo basis just to make your photos a little bit more consistent. I am currently offering custom presets where I do this and I create one for you and your brand and your photography portfolio. Or I also have an editing service where I will just do it for you. Or if you want your photos just to look like mine, I'm very flattered. Thank you. I do have all of my presets that I use for sale as well. Shameless plug there, but hey, I'm just trying to help you out, okay? Because editing is not for everybody. It is for me, but it's not for everybody. So if you want more time adventuring and like less time editing, I've got you. Now, really quickly, just some practical tips for this fall photo shoot. Make sure to dress in layers because it can get a little bit chilly up there, but it also can get pretty hot depending on where you are. And with those layers, definitely bring a raincoat for both you and your camera. As I said, I got there right when the storm was there and I was freaking out because it was basically raining on me and my camera. Don't be me. Get a little waterproof housing. I'll link my favorite one below just so you don't ruin your camera in the process. We don't want that. If it is freezing, you could use very thin touchscreen gloves just because shaky hands and shaky cameras are obviously not great for crisp and clear photos. And also, I know I say this a million times, but I clearly have not learned because I run into this all the time, but bring extra batteries and extra cards, especially if you are shooting in RAW, because RAW takes up more space than you think and you will run out of memory if you're going crazy like I normally do. And if you do want to avoid those crowds, I would definitely focus on maybe some more hidden gem places, not the main places where you maybe have to hike into where you're going, not just places with pulled-offs, and just try to avoid those crowds. And my last practical tip is don't forget to put the camera down after you've gotten your shots and just enjoy the moment, because it can be very easy to get sucked up and be like, oh, just one more shot. No, just enjoy the moment. Enjoy life. Your photos will be there when you get back. So fall is fleeting, but with the right camera gear and strategy, you can preserve that fall magic like it's in a little bottle. Pack your gear, chase those golden roads, you bring extra memory cards, and photograph those leaves like the true divas they are. If you did find this photography content helpful, make sure to like and subscribe so you can support my small channel and my traveling mermaid photography business. Thank you so much. And also drop a comment, send me a DM, because I want to see how your fall photographs turned out. I absolutely love these photos and I will look at every single one, I promise you. Until next time, adventurers, have so much fun chasing those leaves. You are now officially a part of the Leaf Peeper Club, and here's to living adventurously through your lens.